Okay, Reena, well, thank you very much for joining us and doing this.
Thank
Do you want to start by, for anyone who's been living under a rock, do you want to just tell them who you are and what you do?
you. Sure. So I'm Reena. I'm a specialist periodontist. I'm based in central London. And in terms of kind of what I do, I'm mainly based in practice. I've got my own perio practice in central London, so I'm mainly based there for about 3.5 days a week. And then I'm also working at King's College Hospital in Denmark Hill once a week, seeing some patients in terms of treatment, assessments, a little bit of teaching as well. And then also I do a little bit of kind of private teaching as well, hygienists and young dentists.
Wicked. And so how long have you been a specialist for now, Reena? When did you finish your training?
God, it's been a good few years now. So 17, 18, 19, so probably like 3.5, 4 years now coming to. But time flies. It feels like yesterday I graduated. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's been good.
And what is it that you enjoy about being a periodontist?
For me, I think it's a large part of it is the relationships you build with your patients, because
Yeah,
perio is quite different to all the other specialties. It involves a lot of teamwork, and it involves compliance for you to get good results. So you end up building it's not just about what's in the mouth. It's a lot more than that. And you end up building quite strong relationships with your patients, and you see them on a long-term basis as well. So it's not like endo where you do the endo and it's like bye.
yeah,
You've got to see them regularly, you've got to maintain them, and building that relationship is great, I think, and it's very rewarding for both parties.
yeah.
That's why I think during lockdown we're all really missing seeing our regular patients. So I enjoy that part of it. I enjoy the actual treatment as well. I find it very satisfying. I particularly enjoy surgery,
Yeah.
especially mucogingival surgery, so the more kind of aesthetic things like crown lengthening, recession defects. I mean, that's kind of like my favorite thing.
Yeah.
But I kind of love all of it together, essentially.
Yeah. And so if we go to the types of treatments that you do, so a lot of people, I think, have this misconception that a periodontist is someone who's just probing pockets and,
Yeah.
and coaching people on how to clean. And I mean,
Yeah.
obviously that's part of it, but what other kind of treatments do you provide then? So you've already touched on a few of those there.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think most people think it's just all about gum gardening. And I think, especially even when I was an undergrad, actually, I didn't find perio interesting at all. I never thought I would specialize in perio. It's only later on when I realized how much more there is to it, did it interest me.
Yeah.
So as a periodontist, yes, of course, you do the non-surgical treatment. Obviously, the level you do it as is a specialist level, so it's the kind of most advanced non-surgical treatment, which is different. But as well as that, there's a lot more that we do in terms of things like surgery, and there's essentially different types of surgery. So you've got pocket reduction surgery, and within that you can do things like resective surgery, where you're essentially just cutting away the pocket, or you can do regenerative surgery, which is quite fun. So you're actually building back what you've lost. So I'm sure you've heard of things like Emdogain, BioOS, BioGuide, all those kind of grafts and membranes. You're rebuilding what you've lost, and that's really fun. And then you've got, as we mentioned, the mucogingival surgery, and within that you've got things like crown lengthening. And crown lengthening can be divided into restorative crown lengthening, but also aesthetic crown lengthening, which I feel is really on the increase. I get so many patients saying, look, I've got a gummy smile, or one gingiva slightly lower than the other. Can you sort it out? And it makes a big difference when you do. So that aesthetic crown lengthening is becoming quite popular. And then the recession side, again, is getting really, really popular. So correction of recession defects, especially for now, a lot of people are doing Invisalign and smile makeovers. The gingiva does make a difference. And if you've got like high smile line and even 2 millimeters of recession can have an impact, and some patients can really be affected by it. So quite a lot of my work is correcting recession, especially aesthetic recession as well.
Just before I go on to your talking about your practice, one of the things that you don't do as much of, but I know some periodontists do more of, and some don't do at all, is kind of implant work or placing implants as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a good question. So on your perio programs, most specialty programs, you are taught to place and restore implants.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not something that I loved. I found it quite stressful, and the kind of mindset you need for implant treatment is very, very different actually to things like perio surgery. So when I went out in practice, I decided I'm just going to have a kind of purely perio practice. I decided, I wouldn't be doing implants essentially. I do treat periimplantitis, and I can place implants if I want to, but I've decided to really hone in on just perio.
Yeah. I mean, to me, the perio skills are the scary bits, but there we go. And so, I mean, so you've recently bought a practice. So when did that open,
Yes.
and how's that going?
So opened about 2.5 years ago, and it was very kind of straight after I graduated from my perio program. I kind of decided I had a few choices, so I could either work for lots of practices and travel around the UK every single day, going to a different place, or try and build my own base where I wanted to, and then build my referrals coming into my practice essentially. And it's a difficult decision because not doing it this way and having your own practice is far riskier than going to a practice and having patients booked in for you. But I'm quite particular with the way I do things, and I decided that let's just take the risk, go for it, and hopefully slowly the referrals would build if you provide good quality care. So thanks to all my referrers, I've been quite busy since we kind of launched. So yeah, it's been really good. I think working for yourself is a really nice feeling, and I think if you can control everything you do and the materials you use and the way you do things and your staff, it can make quite a big difference to kind of the happiness of your day as well. So there's benefits of that.
Great. And I mean, speaking of benefits, I think one of the benefits of being a specialist is that you'll get to do a lot of teaching as well. Is that something you found? You're doing more teaching now that you've kind of finished?
Yeah, that is true, actually. I think that you do get quite a lot of opportunities. Even whilst you're doing your program, there are opportunities to do some teaching, but also after, definitely. I think it's not for everyone. I think if you want to do it, that's great. If you don't want to, that's also totally fine. But I think you will find there's more opportunities to do lecturing and things like that. But it's not to say that you have to be a specialist to teach. It's nothing like that. It's just there are more opportunities. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And what kind of teaching do you do? Do you do still undergrad, or is it just all postgrad stuff now?
So at the moment, in terms of the hospital, it's I teach the hygienist there, and then there's some DFT students as well, which I sometimes supervise. But largely my teaching is kind of private teaching, i.e. organised by myself. So that's hygienists from any kind of age group, any kind of qualification level, to young dentists as well. So they're my kind of two groups that I teach. I do run also a perio course for dentists as well. It's a recent thing that I started like a year ago. It's a weekend hands-on course because I had a lot of people asking, I want to learn how to do crown lengthening and things like that, which is a great skill to have in practice. I think as long as you do a little bit of extra training, you should be able to do simple cases. So I run a course for that, which is quite popular as well. So yeah, I try to mix up the team as well because it keeps it interesting. I really enjoy the teaching side, probably just as much as the actual clinical patient side.
Yeah. So I mean, I saw you teach. It's been a couple of years ago now. So but even then, I think you're very good at explaining things and making things clear and interesting. So definitely a course to look out for. Training pathway. So how long was your training pathway, and where did you train?
Yeah, so my training pathway was 4 years because I did it part-time, and I did it at Guy's. So Guy's is one of the only places, or King's is the only kind of place where you can do it part-time. So most programs are 3 years full-time, but I did 4 years part-time. So you're in about 3 days a week. And what the benefit of that is you can also work at the same time. So, because obviously these things are self-funded. So for me, the full-time option wasn't really an option because I didn't have that much money in the bank. So I was working a few days and then studying a few days. There are lots of other benefits of doing it part-time as well. Although it's an extra year, it's great because you get to apply what you're learning on your patients in practice, and you can start building your patient base as well. So I think the part-time program, if anyone was going for it, I would say that extra year is not going to make a huge difference. It's going to actually just provide benefits. I think the part-time program is quite an attractive option.
Amazing. And what kind of treatments did you get exposed to on there? I mean, you were saying that you did some implant work and you've gone through the treatments you've done. Was it wider than that, or was it?
Yeah, so you start off like your first year is you're on the clinic straight away pretty much, and you start off with general assessments and non-surgical treatment for the first year or so, and then they kind of help you, ease you into surgery, starting off with simple cases, and then by your final year you're almost working with the other specialties like prosthodontics to actually then do more complex like full mouth rehabs. They're doing, for example, one of my cases was a massive crown lengthening case. So I did the crown lengthening, and then the prosto side did the kind of crowns and all of those kind of things. So you then do more complex cases. So I think the all the restorative programs, so endo, perio and prosto, they do like you to work between the disciplines as well, because at the end of the day it's a restorative specialty. So in early stages it's just perio, and then you start working with the other disciplines, which is quite nice as well, because that's what it's like in real life. So they kind of ease you into it, and the support is great with the specialty programs. You get really kind of almost one-to-one support. You learn from your tutors. A lot of them are in practice, so they can actually teach you that side of things as well. Some of them are academics, but some of them are from practice. And then I guess it's normally a very small group, so you kind of learn from each other as well, and you bounce ideas from each other, because it's kind of peer learning as well at the same time. I think the style of teaching in postgraduate is very different to undergraduate. You have to be self-motivated. You have to want to learn about it. You have to want to go to the library and read about it. You're not going to be forced to do anything. So it's important that you're interested in that subject, that you can want to spend time on it.
Yeah. So, I mean, as you say, there's a lot of reading. Is there some research elements to it as well?
Yeah, so there's a research project you have to do normally it's your third year, near to the end of the program, which is like a dissertation. So I did mine on e-cigarettes or vaping and the effects on the periodontal health. Fortunately, I didn't find anything that exciting, but yeah, you get to work on a proper research project and understand the stages of it, which is quite useful, because when you come out the other end, you realize, you know, sometimes you're reading a paper and you think, actually, this isn't very good evidence. The quality of evidence is not very good, and it can be misinterpreted. So that skill itself is valuable going forwards. But there's research. Sometimes you got to do a few audits, and then there's kind of things you have to write up, so case reports, those kind of things. It's quite a varied kind of set of requirements.
Great. And with the group that you're with, how big's the group that you're with? And you're with them?
So we have 5 people, so it's quite small, and that's kind of typical of these programs. So they're very small group, because we kind of need the attention, essentially. So I don't think you would find a program with more than kind of like 10 people.
Okay. And with anyone who's looking at this and thinking, yeah, that sounds like something I want to do, what kind of things or advice do you have for people to get onto a perio course? Because every course seems to be different. So are they wanting you to be well-rounded, or are they wanting you to be very perio focused?
Yeah, I think actually they do want you to be well-rounded, especially restoratively, before you jump onto the program. So I think doing things like a post in oral surgery, a post in restorative in the hospital, but also having experience in practice, all of that combined is an attractive option. So I think they don't expect you to be a periodontist, so you don't need to start doing lots of perio. That's why you're on the program, but you do need to show you're genuinely interested as well. So doing things like a short perio course, weekend course, things like that shows you're genuinely interested in perio. So any evidence of that can help as well. But ideally, you want to have a nice, well-rounded kind of approach before you enter.
Yeah. And do you think there's an ideal kind of time people should wait and kind of gain experience before applying, or could you apply 2 years out?
Yeah, it's a tricky question. I don't think there's a recommended kind of, you have to do it here, have to do it. And you do need 2 years minimum, last time I checked. Might be a little bit more now, but there's kind of 2 ways of seeing it. You either apply really early or you wait. Now, with my circumstance, I applied very early, purely because I was in the swing of learning and swing of university, and it is very, very difficult when you then leave it for 5-10 years to then go back to uni. Things have changed, personal circumstances have changed. You might have a family, financial restrictions. So for me, more for logistical reasons, I wanted to get it done and then focus my skills on perio. Whereas some people, if they're not sure, it's probably better to wait for a few years. And there are benefits of waiting as well, because you get a better kind of grounding on dentistry in general. So I think it has to be an individual sort of decision, but there's no kind of right or wrong. I would say just don't rush into it. If you're not sure, it's better maybe to just wait a few years. There's never like you're too old to come into our program or anything like that. So I think it has to be a personal choice.
Yeah, amazing. And what kind of courses have you done since that you'd recommend for people? Are there any kind of courses that you think anyone looking to improve their perio, or you should go on this, or even that are good for specialists, I guess?
Yeah, come on my weekend course. I think that would be a good start. It's a 2-day thing. One day we do all the theory, and then the second day we do hands-on, like on models and pigs' heads and surgery. I think that will give you it's long enough to know if you like the kind of thing, and not too long, like a couple of, it's not like a 6-month commitment or year commitment. So it's worth looking at, something like that, like a short weekend course to begin with. Yeah, and I'm going to actually be launching an online course as well for people
Okay.
out of London. So that's going to be released, where are we now? Sometime in June. So
Yeah.
yeah, look out for that. It's probably a nice way to get into it as well.
Awesome. And what's the best course you've ever done? You know, have you been anywhere abroad and you just thought that was amazing? Because there's some amazing
Yeah,
on those episodes.
yeah, I went to Florence, I think a year or so ago, and it was a mucogingival periosurgery course by a guy called Tanetti, who's an amazing and Portolini periodontist. I mean, that was incredible. I love going on courses because it almost helps to keep you motivated as well. And you see clinicians who are kind of near, so experienced at the end of their career, and you're like, wow, I want to be like that. So I think you never stop learning. So I think courses is a good way to keep your mind active, keep you motivated, and keep learning. I think it's important, no matter where you are in your career, to keep pushing and going forward.
Yeah, wicked. And finally, if you had 2 pieces of advice for anyone who's watching to just improve their perio when they go into practice on the whenever it is, what would the advice be?
I would say don't ever kind of take any shortcuts. Firstly, like things like probing, it's very easy. Even simple things like the BP, it's very easy to just say, oh, today I'm just going to copy out the previous BPs, or I don't have time, I'm rushed. I would say don't compromise on perio. It's the biggest reason people get litigated against, and it's very easy to diagnose, and you can't visually probe someone. You've got to go in with your probe. It takes a couple of minutes, but it can save you years of stress if something does happen and you miss disease. So I think the first thing would be, don't get lazy with perio. I know it's not the most fun thing to do in practice, but it is really one of the most important things. So I think stay thorough with your approach, and also I think the other thing with perio is get to know the patient as a whole and treat the patient holistically. So, just get to know them. Like, for example, if you're trying to tell them about using interdentals every day, but don't know that they're like a working mom with so many children, it's going to be difficult for them, and they might adjust when they do those interdental brushes. You can basically, unless you know the patient like a bit more about them, your success rate might not be so good. So I think take that extra step and treat the patient holistically, not just their pocket, essentially. And I would also say invest in good equipment, simple hand scalers, especially if we're not allowed to do AGPs. I mean, hand scalers are going to be your savior. So a good set of equipment, if you've got that, if you've got good tools, you'll be able to provide good quality treatment. Otherwise, you're going to be there just burnishing the calculus and not doing much. I think it's worth that investment. And perio instruments aren't the most expensive compared to some other kind of tools that you need. So it's worth looking at that as well. I'm happy to help anyone kind of source that if you need it.
Amazing. Reena, thank you very much for your time.